Hello.
Welcome to my first, only YouTube channel. I have a lot of cameras. I realized that every single camera that I've actually owned, I currently still own and have in my flat. At the same time, I've been thinking about maybe selling some stuff, sliding those DMs. But while I still have all the cameras under one roof, let's take a look at them all one by one. We are starting off, I'm gonna say circa 2008. I know that I would have gotten this camera before 2009. That's sort of the first time that I can find footage that I've recorded on this. It's a Samsung camcorder. It's got kind of a long and confusing name, which I'll put on the screen. And it's just a very straightforward handy cam. I think I got this for Christmas from my grandpa. It even has this little sticker with my old Norwegian phone number on it. So when I got this camera, I was starting to get into YouTube, watching Smosh, XD random type videos. I was also a fan of iCarly, so I made something called DannyCam. I'm Danny, this is the cam. I got some friends to act out my little stupid skits. Of course, everything had to be in English because we're gonna make it big, baby.
Eric and Benny are going to joke the family in this house. Wait, I just got a message. It's a better house there.
So that DannyCam stuff was circa 2009, 2010. I would have been 11, 12. When I was about 13, I made a new friend. We made a channel called Snap Dudes, and we made a grand total of 2 episodes. You can still find them online. I will check with my friend how he feels about me mentioning and showing this, but that's some quality content.
Tell it! Stop it! Stop!
What?
No!
Moving swiftly on. This is a Canon 350D DSLR. This was my mom and stepdad's camera. Before phone cameras really took off, this was their family camera. And once iPhones started to gain more popularity and these things became a little bit more obsolete, I guess, for the average consumer, it wound up collecting dust. Flash forward to 2017-18, I am on a film studies course in the UK and I am kind of interested in buying a camera for myself. I mean, I'm mostly getting by using the university cameras, but I'm realizing that despite having had video making as a hobby for a lot of years, there's still a lot of fine points and technical points that I have neglected to learn about. And this is where my mindset sort of shifts from just making these stupid skits where everything is just about very simply telling the joke. I want to learn how to make nice posh pictures. And eventually I asked my mom and stepdad if I could find their old camera to practice. And I was using this for a couple of years easily. It's a stills only camera. It only has a viewfinder, it doesn't have a live display on the back. It's got a nifty little zoom lens, 18 to 55, which is probably more like 24 to 75 equivalent. And that's really the big thing I learned about this, besides the basics of exposure. I was really obsessed with just zooming in and zooming out and looking through the viewfinder and seeing how a room looks or how a person looks or how a landscape looks through the different focal lengths. And that's really what I remember from this camera. That is what I was learning about at the time. I don't think there's much else to say about it, really. Okay, our third camera and the start of our film era. This is also our first broken camera. We're going back to the year of our Lord 2022. My family is coming to visit me. I meet them at Camden Market and I get completely ripped off. I buy this camera for a ridiculous amount of money for a point-and-shoot film camera, but it is my first film camera. I pick up a roll of Kodak Gold, I load it in, the camera winds it up all for me. Now the annoying thing about this camera and a lot of point-and-shoot cameras is the inaccurate viewfinder. It doesn't actually use a mirror like an SLR or DSLR. It just sort of has this little plastic viewfinder that is an estimate, and oftentimes your photos will be cropped in unexpected and annoying different ways. The good thing about these point and shoot cameras is they're lightweight, you can take pictures really quickly, and they always have a built-in flash which you can turn off or on. So I'm gonna go a little bit out of order now, because this camera broke, as you can see here. It was dropped, so we're actually gonna kind of jump ahead a little bit to later that same summer. I'm once again seeing my family. This time I'm meeting them in Crete. I have this camera with me and it still has a few shots, which I'm very excited about. I need to ration this film very carefully. But on this trip, towards the end of my very first roll of Kodak Gold, my stepdad comes across something in an antique shop. And it is this Zenit 122 SLR. So the Zenit cameras are like the most bog standard, most common Soviet make of camera. Now, like a lot of Soviet tech, the Zenit cameras are a little bit unreliable. Case in point, this one eventually fucked itself into a pretzel. That's the shutter curtain you can see back there, and it's the kind of thing that is not easy to fix or replace. But the good thing about it is Zenit cameras are a dime a dozen. I later replaced that for this. I think this cost me £12. I was quite nervous about shooting with manual settings, but after buying the camera from that antique shop, we went and got a roll of Kodak Gold from a photo developing shop, and your man behind the counter just says, keep it at f16, you'll be gold. So basically he was teaching me the Sunny 16 rule, which is that you set your shutter speed to a number closest to the ISO on the box, and then if it's a completely sunny day with hardly a cloud in the sky, you just set your aperture to f16, and the exposure should be good from there. And as conditions sort of change gradually, like a few clouds, a lot of clouds, completely overcast, shade, etc., you just move your aperture down one stop at a time for each sort of tier of condition. So I know this is kind of boring and dry, but this is what the video is about. This is what I learned from getting this camera. I started to learn manual exposure, and again at this point I have two cameras, the Zenit, which I'm starting to use more and more as I'm getting a grasp on how to expose it. I'm trying to get a bit more artsy-fartsy with it, but at the same time I have this point and shoot, which I take on little trips. I take them to parties, and I have, for example, my friends grab the camera and take a picture of me, which if they're not a photographer is a lot easier than trying to get them to use the Zenit. And that is a dynamic that's continued for the years I've been doing film photography. Oftentimes having an SLR and a point and shoot, and having a roll of film in both for different purposes. Now this isn't that interesting, so let's just get it over with quickly. This camera broke out of commission. I replaced it with this much more reasonably priced point and shoot Canon camera. It's quite good. My only complaint about this one is that sometimes there's a bit of vignetting. I don't know what that is, if it's related to the other thing with point and shoot cameras is that if you're not using a flash, they're trying to figure out the best exposure based on the conditions at hand. Now, if you were doing that, you might say, I'm never going to use a shutter speed slower than 1/60 or 1/30 because I know it's going to have motion blur. But your camera might not know that, and it might change those settings without you even being aware of how slow the shutter is. And as a result, you're gonna get a lot of pictures with unexpected motion blur. And while we're on about broken cameras, another quick side note, this Zenit 11, which you'll remember is the one I replaced the first Zenit with, actually broke as well. I tried to load it with some souped film. I'm gonna make a video more in depth about souped film at a different point, but basically I fucked with this film a whole lot. It was so crunchy and hard to rewind once I finished it that I actually snapped off the whole rewind crank. Oh no. I took it to the camera shop and they were able to replace it. So technically I have a third Zenit camera because they just gave me the donor body. So I guess technically that's another camera in my collection, but it's never been used and it can't be used because you can't wind any film. I guess I should give a shout out to Real Camera for fixing my rewind crank for free. Okay people, amateur hour is over. It's time to dig into my professional career. We're still in the year of our Lord 2022, and I've been doing a lot of soul searching. At this point, it's a year since I graduated from my master's degree, and I'm clawing my way towards becoming some kind of freelance media professional. A lot of my experience is editing, even animating, but as we've seen, I have gradually learned more and more about photography and really developed a passion for it. So I want to integrate the actual video production side into what I'm doing. The camera I ended up going with is a Lumix GH5 Mark II. Now, this took a long time to land on. It's a mirrorless camera, and while it's definitely a videographer's camera, it is a hybrid camera, so it tackles both still photography and video pretty well. By far, its best quality is its great built-in image stabilization. For me especially, I am not the steadiest shot. When I'm operating and walking around, I need stabilization. And I got the camera bundled with a kit lens and this 50mm equivalent 1.2 portrait lens. So it wasn't the worst deal, financially speaking. And I have been using it ever since, so that is about 3.5 years of professional videography work that this camera has covered. I've also modified it with this Zenit strap. That's the strap from my first Zenit that we got in Crete. We're slowly spiraling towards the real point of this video, which is what's better? My answer to that question is always, what are you doing? Now, I have used better cameras than the GH5. I have rented cameras, borrowed cameras, but I'm still hanging on to the GH5. I have not actually upgraded. I have not actually bought a more expensive or better or newer or more modern camera. In order to film this video, I'm obviously filming it on a separate camera. The camera is not mine, it belongs to my friend Nick. That's the GH5 Mark I. I wanted it to look like my camera. Nick has since upgraded it to an FX30, a great Sony cinema camera, which I've been using every chance I can, and it's fantastic. But I didn't want to borrow his FX30 for this video. I wanted to borrow his GH5 because this is a video, first of all, about my cameras. It should look like my footage. And secondly, what is this camera for? Like, what is its purpose? What is its specialty? This is a camera for vloggers, for YouTubers, and I'm making a vlog. I am making a YouTube video. Everything has its role. And if you do want some advice on what to purchase and what not to purchase, I would twist it a little bit around and say, try not to purchase anything unless you have to. If you can borrow something and try it and get a feel for it and get some practice, that's always better. Like, believe it or not, my intention with this video is actually to convince you to buy less stuff. And that's so you can throw away all your money on film! This is my favorite film camera that I own right now. It's a Japanese SLR, a Kusina, which is basically a Pentax camera for all intents and purposes. It has the Pentax K-mount for the lens, and I've got quite a few different lenses at this point. So the lab that I initially used here in Manchester had this camera for sale. I saw it in the window with a zoom lens, portrait lens, a teleconverter, and a flash unit. For another like 12 quid, I bought a wide angle lens, and later on, much later on, like quite recently, I also bought a fisheye adapter, really cheap one, that you can screw onto the wide angle lens. That also has a macro attachment. This camera is kind of my baby. It's basically rendered my Zenit cameras obsolete. It has a working light meter, so that's a major plus. It's just very light compared to the Zenit, which is very clunky. So as I mentioned, my combination for film photography has essentially been SLR and point and shoot. That's still kind of the case, but I've slowly started using the point and shoot less and less and less. And now that I've just sung this camera's praises, I wanna talk a little bit about why point and shoots are still valuable. So at this point, I like having control of my image. I don't like paying for a roll of film and then putting it into a point and shoot camera where all of the pictures are only down to, do you want flash or not? With my SLR, I have so many options. I have so many different focal lengths, all on good prime lenses as well. I actually really like the teleconverter on this Kusina. It has this nice distortion around the edges, kind of looks like a petrol swirl, and I love that. I have a designated flash for it. I even have a shutter release cable, so I can do long exposures on a tripod. I mean, this camera really has it made. However, every camera has a role, like I said. A point and shoot camera is a great party camera. It's a great street photography camera. It's a camera that's good when you want to capture, I'd say, a person and you're not overly fussed about the framing. It's a camera for speed. It's also a lot less awkward for the person being photographed if you're not a model. Anyway, I just want to give this last defense for the point and shoot camera in general. Right, ladies and gents, we're down to our last two cameras, and we're gonna start with one I wish I didn't buy. This is my other camcorder besides my first camera. It's a Sony digital tape mini DV camera. This was one of those trendy impulse buys that I just couldn't resist. I was really getting into sort of lo-fi aesthetics, glitch art, and getting a kind of grungy feel. Once I recovered my first camcorder from my childhood bedroom and started messing around with that again, I was sort of smitten by the lo-fi look of it, and I wanted to get even more into it. So I wanted to experiment with tape formats, and I will say this, I still think I barely have. Ultimately, the footage from this camera looks very similar to my just bare bones camcorder. It does have some small quality improvements, like the zoom is a lot more smooth. You can turn auto or manual focus on and off. Lastly, it has this night shot function, which when you turn that on, it looks like Anyway, this thing was just completely indulgent. I didn't need this. Anything I can do with this, I could pretty much do with my original camcorder. I will say that when you rewind the tape, it does have a cool pixelated scrolling effect, which I like. Clearly, I'm all for experimenting, but I think I could have spent this money on something else. In fact, segue, I could have spent that money on a cartridge of Super 8 film. In this case is my most recent camera, a Sankyo Super 8 camcorder. When I got into film photography in 2022, I think it was all leading up to a point where I would finally have the balls to put my money on the line and try to shoot some film video, some motion pictures on film. And it was a long journey to decide to finally get this, but the camera itself was very cheap. I bought it untested on eBay for about £20. I bought a roll of Super 8s and I shot it to test the camera. I mailed that off to London and the camera worked. Now it's very fiddly. The focus can be a bit difficult to get right. The exposure can be a little bit unreliable, but if you aren't too much of a purist to do a little bit of tweaking in post, you can get some lovely things out of the dynamic range of the Super 8 film. So after the test roll, we used this to shoot some footage for a music video for my friend Kay, aka Pay Rent. And I moved from there to shooting an entire music video in Super 8 for folk singer Brian E. Lloyd. This is the kind of indulgence that I think I deserved. Whereas that Sony camcorder with the mini DV tape was not really anything useful, it was quite impulsive. This is something that I had, to be fair, been building up to for years. I had been experimenting and learning a lot about film, about exposure, and I think I deserved to have a go at this. Now, it is an expensive process, I will say that, but we all have our priorities, right? You can buy the next model of the newest camera, or you can buy some film. It's just interesting to me how Super 8 used to be this gritty, low-budget format, or like the consumer home movie format, and now because the default is to shoot digital, even Super 8 has become posh by comparison. And if this video has any point, it is that you don't need to do anything posh. As long as you can learn something else with what you have on hand, just get what you need to learn what you're curious about. And I happen to be curious about film, so I put a lot of money towards film photography and Super 8 recording. To each their own. Well, I think that about does it. We've gone through all my cameras. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 cameras. I don't know what the purpose of this video was or if you got anything out of it, but please like and subscribe. I haven't done this in a long while. I mean, I've never done this because this is my first and only YouTube channel and this is my first video. And I already have my second video all planned out. We're gonna be looking at some film stuff. Hope you're excited.